It's collection video time once again here in the Gaming Pantry. This is the Retro Bear with a update to my N64 collection this time. Yes, we've moved on from the early days of 16-bit and we've jumped right into the next generation as such, moving around a bit as we do, going through my collection bit by bit. I've done a video on this previously. I can't remember how long ago it was actually. I don't think it was that long ago, maybe a couple of years back. Possibly longer, I don't know. But that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm revisiting some of my old collections. If you've not seen those, in the last 12 months we've updated the NES, the Super NES, the Mega Drive, done a DS video. I think that's all I've done so far. Not got very far with it, but gradually getting there. The Atari 2600, we've done that as well. So that's the idea, just keep doing these and revisiting them. Hopefully do more of these for the rest of the year, and by hopefully the end of this year all my collection should be on here. But there's a lot of bit to do. There's some big collection. Firstly, I should apologise again for the lighting today. We're now in the middle of the afternoon. It is now 1:45 on a Friday in the afternoon, and the light is appalling because it's not sunny, it's not dark, it's just that in between bit. So if the curtains are open, there's too much light coming in. If the curtains are shut and the lights are on, there's too much light. So I've got the curtain shut. I did try and put the overhead light on, but that just sort of again elevated the what's the word, exposure. So yes, apologies. I'm not going to disappear. I'm still here. I'm still moving around. It's going to be a little on the darker side perhaps than usual. Anyway, hope you're well. Good to see you back here. And yeah, so we're talking about our old friend the N64 today, which is one of these consoles which there aren't many of them, but this one does seem to split people right down the middle. I'm not surprised, it's quite heavy. No, it's one of these which you either like or you don't like. And it comes from that era of the 64, the PlayStation 1, the Saturn, where you've got these 3D polygonic graphics and fogging and all sorts. And yeah, I mean, aesthetically, it's not a particularly good looking machine, is it? I mean, I don't think it looks too bad. I mean, obviously it's got the 4 ports for your joypads across the front. There's the cartridge slot at the top. There's the memory card slot in the front. Not memory card, the expansion pack slot in the front. I still can't get it right after all the years. Of course, that is a transfer pack, not an expansion pack, but it needs one of those in there to work at least. Anyway, you've got your controllers on the front there as well for on and off and what have you. Never try and put those back on there. On and off and power and all that reset on the far side. Just a nice chunky bit of plastic. Great power pack supply that goes in there for your mains. And there's your AV lead there as well. So yeah, aesthetically not great, but I don't know. I've quite a soft spot for this one. It's probably the Nintendo console I got to play on and really appreciate properly, because everybody I knew had one when they first came out. And it was one of the, again, I think after the Mega Drive, when I first started recollecting old systems back in 2008, 2009, it was actually the first system that I wanted to get hold of that I didn't own, and it was. That's exactly what happened. Again, I think it was a tenner at a car boot with a controller. The controller, we've talked about controller many times on this channel with many different people. And yeah, the controller I don't like. Do I appreciate it more now I've been told how to use it by Feed Me Chicken? Jury's out, we'll have to see. Obviously I've been holding it wrong for all these years. We've got the 3 prongs on it. I tend to hold the 2 outside ones. I've been told to hold the 2 starting on the left and then the middle. I think it's much better experience. So it's one of those. But again, it's that sort of thing. Everything about it, games, the way things look, the look of the console, the actual controller itself, just split people right down the middle. You either liked it or you don't like it. There we go. Beggars can't be choosers, can they? If everything was nice and straightforward and easy to use, then everybody would be very happy, wouldn't they? But evidently not. What have we got here? Well, we got, I mean, one of the great joys about doing these videos is you're never quite sure how many games you've got for a certain system until you actually sit down and go through them. For example, having done the Mega Drive one, I was stunned that there was about 60 games there, I think there was altogether, loose cards and box. I thought that's, I was surprised at my Super Nintendo collection, although again there's 1, 2, 3, at least there's 7 games boxed. I've only got, I think it was less than 40 which surprised me a little bit. And then I got nearly 50 DS games, which really did surprise me. So it's an interesting way of doing it, especially if you've not tallied up your collection for a while, like I haven't. So what I'm doing at the moment is doing these videos, then I'm tallying the collection together so it goes into my database, and then I know exactly how many I've got. And I'm going to do a video at some point in the future. I'm going to go through all the numbers, exactly how many there are, because I'm actually telling you how many there are here. You can sit there and count them if you want to. Because when I first started doing years ago, I used to put a little graphic up saying how many I've got in the collection, but I don't do that anymore now. But once I'm getting to this point now, we'll do so. So what we've got to mix of here is loose cartridge and box. And these have come from all over the place. These have come from car boots. These have come from second-hand shops. Some of these come from charity shops, and these come from game fairs. So some of these were donated. I've sort of swapped them in. The ones that were given to me because they're better than the ones that I've got, and some of these are new additions to the system, and they've been picked up all over the place. If I can remember a certain story about a certain thing, I will tell you. I'm not going to unbox everything, all the box games we've got, because that will just be for, because some of them aren't in the best condition. Warn you now, some of them are good, some of them are not so good, but I will tell you that they all come with all the inserts are in place, and all the manuals are there as well, so all the box games are complete, which actually, having done the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo stuff and found out that there are bits missing here and there, to actually no, this is actually complete, it's like, wow, good, I'm happy with that. A small number of box games, cartridge games. We'll do the loose stuff first, we'll save the box games until the end. I'm not saying that's going to be any better. We'll do it. And these are in no particular order. No particular order, I'm just picking them off the pile. So we'll start with Extreme G Racing, which I believe, for those of you who are more interested in that sort of thing, there is a gameplay of this somewhere on my channel in the gameplay section. I'm not going to show the front. I'm not going to show the back, because that's what a back looks like on an N64 cartridge. There may be a couple I'll show you which are slightly different, but I will talk about those there. I'm not going to get in the whys and who-hows about that one. That is it. Good little racing game, very, very fast. Good series as well, because I think that carried on to I think I've got a PlayStation 2 Extreme G game. Great little. I'm not sure why they stopped doing those. They were great. They ran along F-Zero. So F-Zero stopped, and then I don't know. They're very quite similar racing. But if you play Speed Race from the Wii, very, very similar to that futuristic racing game. Great stuff, honestly, really, really good. One thing I do love about the N64 was the quality of some of the racing games, and here's one of the best ones ever. I still think this is a fantastic game to this day. This is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, which was a pack-in title when The Phantom Menace came out. It is just a brilliant racing game. It's Star Wars for a start, so if you like Star Wars, you're on to winner, and it's a fast racing game. It really is good. I think the presentation, the graphics, the sound are all fantastic on it. It works really, really well. I love that game. I know they've updated it and re-released it, but you cannot fault the original. Quick story about this one. This is a game that Mrs. Bear beat me on at the National Video Game Museum when it was still in Nottingham. When it moved to Nottingham, or before it moved from Nottingham to Sheffield, when it was there anyway. We sat down and played that, and she beat me at it. First game we played. There we go. So if you don't play Mrs. Bear on Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, brilliant game. Give me a couple of these, and this is FIFA World Cup 98, which I played on the PlayStation most of all. Never played the N64 version. This is based around the World Cup of 1998, and it's the FIFA match engine. I've been asked football games go, it's all right. Oh, it was back then anyway. I'm not sure it's aged now. It's all right. This one came out of cash converters for £1, I think it was. I've taken the label off now, thank goodness. It's a nightmare to label to get off. But again, N64 loose game for £1. I'm going to be jumping on those all day long. Even if it is Rugrats Treasure Hunt. But, I mean, for £1. See, again, this was probably only going back maybe 6 years, 5-6 years. Not a drastic amount of time. It's not like 15, 20 years ago. But, you know, one of the things that gets levied at me, and rightly so, is the quality of some of the games that I have. And I'm driven by price. If someone's telling me to sell an N64 game for £1, it's Rugrats Treasure Hunt, I'm going to buy it. I am honestly going to buy it. I know a lot of people say, I ain't paying £1 for that, you know. Well, I'm not going to get any joy out of that. That's fine. That's fine. That's you. This is me. It's the way I do things. The way I've always done things. Played this on the PlayStation 1. I was a big fan of it, and I tried to play. Honestly, when I got this, I tried to play it on the N64, and I just couldn't. I got this out of a CEX for a couple of quid. This is V Rally 99. Again, very good game on the PlayStation 1. I wasn't a fan of this on the N64. I do like my driving games, so that was a bit miffed with that one. This one, going back years, this one. I've had this a very, very long time, and I'm pleased to have it because to me, it's a better game than the other popular genre game on this system. This is Diddy Kong Racing, which I think is a much, much better game than Mario Kart on. I think actually to me that was a better game than Mario Kart on any system up until that point. Until Crash Team Racing came along. Really, really good game. And it does say it's aimed at kids because it's got, you know, it's the tiny characters and Donkey Kong. Don't say that. It's a good game in its own right, and it's a fantastic game. It really is. And like I said, very lucky to get that many, many years ago for not a lot. And I didn't know an awful lot about it at the time, and I've appreciated having played and read more about it, thinking, oh yeah, it's a cracking game, that one. Right, one game that, if you're a wrestling fan like me, you have to own a copy of this game. This is WWF No Mercy, which is the definitive wrestling game for many wrestling game aficionados of THQ. Not sure what the state of the battery is, because obviously there is an issue with the battery store and save on these particular games. I'm not sure what the state of that one is. I think it messes with the game, or you can't. Something with it anyway. You have to look, go and look it up. I'm telling you, I'll give you a fair warning. I'm now warning you. Go and read it. But yeah, best wrestling game again. I think because you can create the wrestler and it's very seamless in terms of playability. Definitely one of the better versions there. It was far superior to. Although I did play a lot of WWF Warzone and Rory's War. I thought they were good games on the PlayStation 1, but I never had access to No Mercy. All I could hear about was how good No Mercy was, how good No Mercy is, and how people hold it as that sort of pinnacle of wrestling games anyway. What have we got next? This one again I think was relatively cheap. Don't know where it's come from, but it must be relatively. This is the Nagano Winter Olympics 98. I think this may have come out of a CEX again for a couple of £. But you know, Olympics games I do enjoy. Winter Olympics I do enjoy because you never get to see winter sports on the telly much. So yeah, man, it's a Konami game as well. Did Konami do track and field? I think they did, didn't they? Trying to remember. Must have come from good stock anyway. This one again, CX couple of quid. Top Gear Rally. Very common game. You wouldn't pay much more than that for it now. I wouldn't have thought. Lots of those knocking around. It's a goodish racer. I didn't like this when I played it. I must admit this was years ago. I never played it since. I didn't realise it was an ocean game until I just looked at the front of the label. This is Fighter's Destiny, which I can tell you very little about. There's some sort of tagline at the top. I don't think I was particularly impressed with that when I first played it. That's why I've not gone back to it. What have we got next? We talked about No Mercy. Let's talk about WrestleMania 2000, which I think was this the follow-up to No Mercy, I believe, or was this the game that came before No Mercy? I can't quite remember. But again, I think that's a really good wrestling game. Well, both these WWF titles for the N64 are two of the best, undoubtedly. Came from THQ as well. Really, really good. It was about that time I was probably not the peak of my sort of second interest in wrestling was sort of peaking around that time. But yeah, I mean those are real quality titles. The N64 had some really good wrestling games. You'll see maybe a couple of others while we go through these, but if you like wrestling and you like the N64, you're in business. If you're not, might be a bit disappointing. Can't remember what this one's like on the system at all. I'll be interested to see. Again, it's not really my sort of game. This is Quake 64. Not really sure I can tell you much more about that. I've got a feeling that probably came out. There's this one car boot where I went to. We famous. I've told this story a few times before. Bottom line is we were camping at the weekend. We were camping away for the weekend, and then the very next day there was a car boot in the next field. as it was. It's almost like fate. And there was somebody selling an N64 with a load of games, and I could probably point out which ones were as we go through them, the good ones anyway. And I knew immediately how much this particular thing would have been worth sold separately. And they wanted 20 quid for it, and we had literally, you know, we checked the pockets, we checked Mrs. Bear's purse, my wallet for actual cash. This is going back about 2009, 2010. This is, you know, shook the dog down to see if she was carrying any pennies or anything like that. We managed to scrape together 13 quid, and I offered to take it away in the box because I didn't want the box back. And luckily they went for it. It's probably one of the best pickups I've ever done at a car boot. There's some real stellar titles in there. I will talk you through some of those when we get to them. They're all loose cartridge, but at the time they were, you know, very, very high quality games, and sometimes you just have to act like that. But yeah, it was a real I'm not leaving here without it sort of moment. We got 1080 snowboarding. If somebody doesn't like winter sports and doesn't like Tony Hawk's games, I must admit, I don't mind snowboarding games. SSX series of games I can sit down and play quite happily. I can sit down and play that. I can sit down and play Amped. I can even play some of the really rubbish ones and be very happy. But stick a Tony Hawk's game in front of me, red mist comes down, I want to start punching people. This one was a recent donation, and I had a Gen's video recently where somebody donated a load of their original consoles, all in immaculate condition, and peripherals, and there were some N64 cartridges in there. This is one of them. I haven't played it yet. It's not my sort of game, but do you know what? I owe it to this person who donated all this stuff to actually have a go at this properly. It's Pokemon Snap, which I think you have to walk around taking photographs of Pokemon. Yeah, somebody who played Pokemon Yellow briefly decided it wasn't for him, and not picked up a Pokemon game ever since. This one, CX job again, I think £4 or so, loose cartridge, Jet Force Gemini from Rare. Very good game. Rare had a great reputation on the N64. If you have an Xbox One, there's a compilation you can buy called Rare Replay. You may or may not be aware of it. It's got loads of like old school games on Spectrum games on there, and some of the N64 titles are on there as well. Complete history. There's some crackers on this system. If you haven't picked it up, it's like £3. I mean, it's a no-brainer on the Xbox, certainly. Some of the cartridges, some of the games will set you back a few quid if you want the original stuff, but one of the great program developers of this particular era for this system. It's a game I played many times on other systems as well. This is Road Rash 64. I don't think it's the best version of Road Rash I've ever played. I've got to stop saying generic things like that, like not my favourite or not the greatest game in the world. I'm trying to be less generic. It's not the best Road Rash I've played. You know, for me, the Amiga, the Mega Drive games are much better than these sort of incarnations. It's not bad if you like Road Rash, but it's not quite the same. Don't know why, it just doesn't fit. Just doesn't fit on that system. Maybe because it's a Nintendo system, and Nintendo weren't built for violence. You know, driving around a motorcycle, clubbing people to death with sticks and chains. I don't know, kicking them off, things like that. Love this game. It's really fun. Taz Express. Again, not the sort of game that I thought it was going to be, but I mentioned the Mega Drive video. I don't think Tasmania on the Mega Drive is aged particularly well. This is still a fun little game, and I do like the Taz character from Looney Tunes. It's really good. Yeah, I was quite surprised at that one. I was quite surprised at that. Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, you were like a delivery. Tasmania Devil's a delivery person, or you'd pick crates around. It's been ages since I played it, but I had a lot of fun with it. I remember that. This is one of the great games of the system, Lilac Wars. It's so cheap to buy in cart form. If you've got an N64, you think they're getting one, you need to get this. It's from the start. It's the follow-up to Star Fox. It's from Star Fox on the Super Nintendo. This is it, Lilac Wars 64. When I first got this from the car boot all those years ago and got home and stuck it in, I was sat there for about 3 hours playing it. Just absolutely brilliant, it really is. And I never played Star Fox, or Star Wing as it was called. Never played the original game back then. I played it now and I'm like, it's alright. Lilac Wars is fantastic. There is a big box version of it as well, which is a bit more pricey. But that is just a fantastic game. It's one of those, one of those games you need to get. It's unusual for me to do a collection where there's a lot of games in here, those wrestling games, for example, you need to get hold of that one. Lilac Wars, you need to get hold of that one. There's a few more in here I'm looking at now, which I'm going to say exactly the same thing. Go back to talking wrestling games again from THQ, but this is the different brand at the time. Because you had WWF, you had also the WCW. So this is WCW NWO World Tour. There were 2 of these games. I think the other one was WCW NWO versus the World. No, that was the PlayStation 1 title, wanted WCW versus the World. There's another one I can't think of at the moment, but again, really, really good. This one probably is the worst one of the 2. I can't remember what the other one's called now. Damn it, I haven't got it as well. So it won't refresh my memory, but yeah, 4 great wrestling games, 2 WCW ones, 2 WWF games, all from THQ, all on the N64. If you're a wrestling fan, that's all you need to know. All you need to know. One of my favourite games on this system. I love this one. I've got the N64 follow-up, the GameCube follow-up. I still think it's a fantastic game even these days. I've even got it on the Game Boy. It's not quite as good as the Game Boy, but it's Wave Race 64. This is a fantastic game. It's a jet ski, 3D jet ski game, and it's fantastic. The water effect on it is brilliant. The water dynamics on it and how it affects your racing is brilliant. The weather on it is great. It was just completely different at the time, and I know quite a few people have a very, very high opinion of that game. I'm surprised we haven't got any more games. We've not had any more games in the Wave Race banner. Like we haven't had many F-Zero games for years. Why? I don't understand. But that is just such brilliant fun. And I think when the GameCube came out, you could either have had Star Wars, Super Monkey Ball, or Wave Race. And we didn't go with Wave Race. That was the one we should have gone with. Well, actually, all 3 launch games are pretty good, to be fair. But that one is just great fun. Really, really great fun. What have we got here? Let's do this one, the sports game for you. Again, this one I know absolutely nothing about. This came with a bundle or something or other. NBA In The Zone 2000. I'm afraid I can't tell you any more than the title of the game. I do know there's another. There is one. I think an NBA game which I saw a few years back was going for a hell of a lot of money on that system. Can't remember what it is. We showed you one game from Star Wars. There'll be a couple more in here. This is another one, and again, what a brilliant game this is. Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Really, really, really great stuff if you're a Star Wars fan. This is the Rogue Squadron, so obviously we had the Rogue Leader games on the GameCube, which to follow up from this. But again, when I first got this, I sat there for hours on end playing it. Just trying to work out what I was doing. No, I was all right at it. I was all right at it, but just couldn't believe how good those games were. If I'd had that system back then, bear in mind, that was probably 96, 97, or 98 or whatever. I'm playing these games 10, 12 years later, and I'm thinking, God, this is the sort of thing I would have gone for years and years ago. Absolutely brilliant. Not a hard game to find. Quite a few of these aren't hard to find. We're getting into the. Let's just put all those together very, very quickly, shall I? I'm just going to do some shuffling around. I'll just put some of the heavy hitters together, and I'll try and give an example of some of the stuff that came out of that car boot. Right, a couple of American titles then while we're doing that. And I didn't know these were American titles until I actually got home and picked them up and realised what they were. And this came out of that bundle, the car boot I got for 13 quid. So I'm not sure how they were able to play these, because the N64 that came out there was not an American one. So I'm really not quite sure. And they are slightly different. I'll show you why. Firstly, we've got Aero Fighters Assault. So first thing giveaway out front there is obviously the classification, because if it's a PAL version, it'll be age ranges, and the American ones tend to be classified with lettering, such as this one, which is Mace the Dark Age. So there's 2 American ones. You want to see why there's a difference. Just look at the bottom of Mace, so that's the American one, okay? And then if you look at the bottom of Star Wars Rogue Squadron, and you can see there's a gap There we go. So just turn that slightly. Oh, there's a Clash Converters label at the back of that. 199 out of Cash Converters. That wasn't me, that was somebody else, I think. But there you can see there. So there we is. If I just do it that way, you can see there. So on this side here is the PAL version. On that side there's the American. So you can just see down the bottom there's a slight variation on it. So try shoving that into your American one or that into your European one, and it ain't going to happen. Anyway, I could have probably done that a lot better. But again, I don't know how they got that, because every single cartridge in that lot are picked up, and it wouldn't. When I got the cartridge, they wouldn't fit. I was like, why don't they fit? And then I realised that they were American. Another one for you, Wipeout 64. I'm sure we've all played a version of Wipeout at some point. Futuristic racing game. Yeah, I preferred other games. I preferred Extreme G. I preferred F-Zero. I just found Wipeout, I just didn't like. I played on the PlayStation when it came out. I was very excited for it because obviously there was the Banging House dance soundtrack to go with it as well. Just didn't. I've played other races and I prefer Speed over that. I mean, it's a quick game, but I don't know, just didn't grab me as I wanted it to. You know, when you play something, you think I really want this to work. It just didn't for me. We saw Quake earlier, so here's Quake 2 for you. That's all I can add about that one as well. Yeah. Didn't realise I had both Quake games on the system. Really weird. There we go. A couple more for you then before we get into some of the heavy stuff. Rayman 2, The Great Escape. Rayman's one of these characters that I've grown to appreciate more and more as time's gone on. I used to hate Rayman up until the time Raving Rabbids came out, which was that party game for the PlayStation 2, which I actually made a point of going out and getting a version of as soon as I got a system to play it on. And over time, I've now more appreciated the original outing on the PlayStation 1. That is a good game as well, no doubt about it. Obviously, I've mentioned many times in the past, for those of you who know me and those of you who don't, Rayman Origins, Rayman Legends, two cracking games on all those modern day systems. I've got it on the Wii, the Wii U, the Switch. I should probably get it on the Xbox and PlayStation as well, but just fantastic looking games, really playable, and a really good series. You know, I wasn't a massive fan of Rayman at all. And I've grown to appreciate that one. And this one again, I think was a couple of quid out of CEX or a Cash Converters in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years. Mission Impossible, also by Ocean Software as well. A bit of damage on the label there. Most of these games are in pretty good condition in terms of the labelling being in place, which is very important. So that's those. Now, I was on about the games that came out of this bundle I picked up. And I will tell you what was in that bundle, which is here. Just say two games that were donated to me fairly recently from that console donation, which was Mario Kart 64, which was the first Mario Kart I wanted to play on my own. I wasn't very keen on playing the Super Nintendo one any time ever, whether it's multiplayer or not. This one I really want to sit down and play the single player game, and again my experience on this would just be battered by everybody else who owned N64s and spent 24 hours a day playing this game while others got on with their lives. So not great experiences with this game. Having gone back and played it on emulation, I've appreciated it more, so much so when I got to Double Dash, that's when I really started enjoying Mario Kart games. So that got donated recently, which was just fantastic. And this was also donated. It actually upgraded my original copy, because my original copy is basically missing most of the label. And this is, again, 007 GoldenEye, which is just one of these iconic games. People buy N64s nowadays and a copy of this game just to try and relive those moments back in the late 90s where you were sat around with a load of mates. In our case, drinking, smoking, eating crap and spending hours playing on this, whether you're any good or not. But again, this was also another game like Mario Kart 64. I wanted to get hold of a game of this myself and play through the single player mode and enjoy it, and that's what I did when I got an N64. I hunted down a cartridge, and that's exactly what I did with it. and I think it's a great game. I've not played, to be fair, I've not played the redone version that came out on the wheel, though I've got it. I've not played it, and again, the PlayStation 3 version, I don't think I've got that at all. I think it came out, did it come out on the 360? Well, I may have done so. If it did, great. If it did wrong, don't correct me. And again, I've not played it, but I played that one, and I played the single player, and it was everything I thought it was going to be. So when I got the N64 bundle for 13 quid, all these games were in there and came with it. So you can see why I knew this was such a good thing to have. First up, Mario World 64, or Super Mario 64. This, again, is a game that I saw somebody playing. I wanted to sit down and play it myself, but I wasn't able to do so because I didn't have one. So this was the game that really wanted me to get an N64. And when I did again years later, exactly the first thing I did. When I had the opportunity to come across a copy at the right price, as in this bundle, that's exactly what I did. And I did sit down and play it properly, and I did enjoy it. I still enjoy it. Another game that was in there, which I really couldn't believe because, well, Donkey Kong 64 was in there as well. Not so much, what's the word? Not so much into this one as perhaps some of the other games. Not bad though, it's not bad. Just I just didn't quite. I felt a bit getting bogged down in places. So yeah, but again, that was in there. Even at this time, I'd done a bit of research about getting knowledge of games and how much things were worth and what value was and what the games to get. Even then, I thought this is a cracking bundle to ignore. This is the game I would never usually have picked up unless it was in that bundle. I've had about 6 copies of this game now over the years, of which I've traded 4 in, just to CEX, because I've picked them up and just found that on bundles or things I bought, there's always been a copy in there. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. It is the only Zelda game I had played up until Breath of the Wild, and again, I played it for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it was just doing nothing for me whatsoever. It really was doing absolutely nothing. Same as Breath of the Wild did. And I thought, I'm going to sit down and put some more time into it. I'm sure there is a fantastic game in there. It has its fans. I'm sorry, I'm not one of them. I'm not saying it's a bad game, because there are too many people that say it's one of the best games ever made. It can't be a bad game, can it? It can't be a bad game. Just not one I'm going to sit down and go through. This one, oh God, we mentioned a couple of Star Wars games. This isn't a great game overall because I played through it, and as it goes through, it gets more tedious, more repetitive, and quite a bit dull. But certainly the first level, if you're a Star Wars fan, this was the best representation of the attack on the Hoth base from Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, I think, again, one of these games that came with way too much hype to start with, and it never quite lived up to it. And I played the first bit, I thought, well, now this is fine, this is a good game. And then the more I got into it, the more I thought, it's getting a bit dull now. It's getting a bit formulaic. Not a bad game, but it could have been a lot better if people had just not hyped it up. I mean, of the 3 I've shown you there, I've talked about Pod Race, I've talked about Rogue Squadron and that one. Heart of Hearts, I'd have loved that to have been much better, so it's at the top. But of the 3 I've shown you, it's to me, it's below both of those other ones, which is a shame because it should have been so much better. And then the last one that was in this bundle, again, you're not going to believe this. I mean, those games were in that bundle. Honestly, hand on heart, I don't lie to people. Banjo-Kazooie. I mean, you can see why I wanted to snap this person's hand off for 13 quid. Unbelievable stuff this was. N64, and it was 2 controllers. One of the controllers, one that was a red controller. So a grey N64, one standard, I think it was a third-party controller, and a red controller. And then, obviously, these 4 or 5 games I've just shown you now were in that bundle. And then, 13 quid, so Banjo-Kazooie. I actually caught Mrs. Bear was upgrading an N64, I think probably for Daily Retro recently. She borrowed Banjo-Kazooie and she was there for about an hour and a half. I like them. Again, very, very similar style game to Donkey Kong 64 and Conker's Bad Fur Day in terms of the open landscape platform, which the N64 got a lot of games for. So that's all the cartridges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 35 cartridges there. So we're nearly up to about, we're going to be in that 50, 45, 50 bracket again. Let's show you the box stuff. Again, some good games here, some generic ones. I can't remember where this came from. It's certainly not something I would have bought. So it must have come from a bundle, or I've just seen it. I don't even know where it's come from. But again, this is a Premier Manager 64 with the Active Sports engine. That's one by Kevin Keegan. I've also got another Kevin Keegan game. If you see my Super Nintendo video, yeah, that's what it's called. It's called a video. I've got the Player Manager for the Super Nintendo with Kevin Keegan on it, and this is Total Football Management Premier 64. Premier Manager 64, endorsed by Kevin Keegan of all people. But yeah, there we go. Somebody, yeah, it doesn't like Kevin Keegan. Got a lot of Kevin Keegan related stuff. This was £2 out of a pawnbroker's. Again, I think probably either just post or just pre-COVID. It has got a G label on, which means it's I think it's an Australian copy, but again, complete for £2. And this is ISS 98, which I absolutely love on the PlayStation 1. But I understand this is a completely different game. But £2 that was. I've seen it sell for about 5 times that amount since then, just in a box condition. And it came originally out the official PlayStation Centre close by to where I live originally, which is still there under a different name now, Sega supplied. This one I got off eBay for £8. I thought I was just buying a copy of the game. This was actually it's one of the Chris, you get on that is a blind auction. You know, one reason people like to use eBay for certain things rather than CEX and places like that is because you can see what you're buying. Well, I bought this game blind. I had absolutely no idea. I thought I was just buying a cartridge. So when this turned up in the condition it did, I was like, perfect dark. And apart from a little bit of scuffing around the top there, which is me, this was almost, well, I won't say perfect, but it was there. And again, as I said, all complete. So I was like, wow, blown away by that. That was a lucky one. This one I found squashed at a car boot, which you'll notice by the state of the box. But again, it's all complete, it is all there. Pilotwings 64. And again, Pilotwings was a game I loved on the Super Nintendo. A friend of mine had it. I don't know why he got it, because he had absolutely no interest in what it was all about. And again, it's one of those games I thought, so I really want to sit down and play that. That was Pilotwings on the Super Nintendo. This one doesn't quite get it right for me. Not quite as good. Again, I think, you know, I'm surprised that franchise hasn't come back. This one, I don't think I've got this. I think I've got this on the Dreamcast, possibly, or the Saturn. Anyway, Shadow Man. Apologies for the battered box. But again, this has just been picked up with a car boot because it was boxed Nintendo cardboard before I knew what boxed Nintendo cardboard actually was. There we go. Just 5 more to show you, more generic as we go along. FIFA 64, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's FIFA, and it's on the N64. And we'll do that one next, so that's quite obvious. FIFA Road to the World Cup 98. Which I just found there wasn't actually a FIFA 98 from what I remember. Because I had 2 cartridges with FIFA 98 on them, both exactly the same. And I've had to do a bit of research about this and found out that there wasn't actually a FIFA 98. FIFA 98 was the Road to the World Cup, because the other game for 98 was World Cup 98, which I showed earlier. So actually I was very pleased that this is all in complete condition to go in the box. And one of the finest football games ever made, no doubt about it. One of the best. I've got a spare loose cartridge if anybody wants that one. This is such a common game you'll find. Come back. I'll come back. There we go. Most common games you'll find: Formula 1 Grand Prix. Even in a box condition, you wouldn't expect to pay much more than I'd say, you know, £5-6, something like that. It's all complete. Again, this one and the sequel, which I haven't played but I have read about, great Formula 1 games, really, really good. N64 got some great races on it. I've seen a couple of good ones on here. This is a cracker. This is an absolute cracker. Really good quality, and it's got all those old Formula 1 graphics on the screen as well. You know, if you played the PlayStation 1 version of Formula 1 and then went and played this, graphically I think the PlayStation 1, believe it or not, was probably slightly ahead. But you know, in terms of where they were in gameplay and speed and you know, experience, they're right the same. You can't go wrong if you get that. And a loose cartridge, you'll find them everywhere. Honestly, it's like copies of FIFA 95 on the Mega Drive. It's that common for the N64. If someone sent an N64 stuff, I can guarantee there's going to be a copy of that one in there, and you should get it. Don't ignore it. If you like racing games, that's what it is. This was one of the last games I got out of Game Station. Remember Game Station? When we had a Game Station in my local town. And I couldn't quite believe it either. It was there. So this was probably again about 2008, 2009. Not my sort of game. But this is with the price I paid for it, which was $4.99, and this is Hybrid Heaven, which I think is like an RPG. I just bought it because it was $4.99 and an N64 game, and then I got it back and I realised it's not meant to be the greatest. What's the word? Example of an RPG, but I mean, for $4.99 at the time, I thought it was an absolute steal. And again, all complete and everything. And then we'll finish on this last one, which was one at the Birmingham Game Market in 2022, possibly. I went there with Eddie, or met Eddie there, good old Eddie at Rollercore. And I said, look, I've got a bunch of money, so I want to buy something decent and spend a decent whack on a game, which I wasn't doing at the time. And having Eddie with you is good because he knows his stuff and he knows what's a fair price. And he saw you could do a lot worse than this one, he says. He said, I reckon you can get the price off that. And it was priced up, I think, at 35. I think we got it down to 33. We didn't get a lot off it. But then when I sort of did a bit of research again afterwards, I thought, oh, it's definitely selling for a lot more than that. It came with a box protector. So that's it. Some of you have seen this before because obviously it's been up on the channel in the last couple of years, but if you haven't anyway, it is Castlevania. And it's the only Castlevania game I actually own physically. Of all the systems that I own, it is the only one that I have. I've played Castlevania on emulation, on the NES, on the PC Engine Mini, whatever, but only time I've ever had a Castlevania game in my collection, and that's the one. So yeah, so we did get £2 off it, but I know it, again, looking at it in the condition it is, again, it's all complete, it would sell for a bit more. So anyway, and that's the N64 collection. So it has grown a little bit since I last did the video. Where are we now? Yeah, since I last did the video back in a couple of years ago, I think it was. And there's about 45 games there, which is not bad little collection. Again, not a huge system to collect for. Where are we? I think we talked about 200 to 250. My good friend Martin will probably correct me on that one, because he's after a full set cart only, pal. And he does collect some of the American coloured ones as well. But you know, I think compared to some other collections, some decent titles there. It's not all, you know, horse games and fishing games and Barbie games and Disney princess games. There's actually some decent titles there. Have you played many of them? Let me know. Are there ones there that perhaps you think I might be interested in that I should get hold of? Let me know. Yeah, anything like that at all, any feedback you can give, anything you want to recommend or any of your own memories, please stick them below. We'd love to hear from you. I will, of course, leave you that there and say nothing else about it. And just to say thank you once again for watching and tuning in. People still do. I don't know how, after 5 years of doing this, people still come in there tens and watch the videos. I don't know. I'm being insincere there now. Every time somebody clicks on and watches and leaves some feedback, or clicks on and watches and doesn't but take some advice or points things out or goes and buys games based on that, what they've seen before previously, it's all appreciated. Just happy to provide the service to you, and we'll continue to do so. In the meantime, I'm off for a bit of fresh air, I think. Well, take care, and I will see you back in the Gaming Pantry very, very soon. But this is the Retro Bear saying bye for now.